Good evening. Welcome to Investigator News, and I'm Elly, and we got William here, and we're ready to go today. Lots of little bit of news, and then me and William have got a lot to discuss on the world news part and World War III report. First off, Arizona governor, and this is also Abbott, is there will not comply with Biden's administration demands to remove the shipping containers filling the border walls. Um, Arizona Doug Ducey, well, he says will not comply with Biden administration's order that they are to that the state will remove all shipping containers that was placed this summer to fill in the gaps of the U.S.-Mexico wall border. Um, Now, it was reported by the Bureau of Reclamation and it said in a letter last week that Arizona was violating federal laws by placing more than 100 containers on federal land and that it was not allowed due to uh, Copa Indian Tribe West Reservation. The unauthorized placement of those containers constitutes a violation of federal law and is against the trespass against the United States, it said in the letter. Boy, they must have really went and looked up some serious laws to get this one. The trespass is harming federal lands and resources and the ability for it to perform its mission. The containers were placed near Yuma, and Arizona and the California state line, also some along Texas and New Mexico. The Bureau of Reclamation said it had awarded the contract in close area closing two gaps, and it was told that they could only place so many. And soon they started filling in more gaps. So they said that these must be removed. Uh, like I like I said, they must have really had the Democrats must have had to really look up some laws to get these. And uh, now I had thought that they had went and got all of the permissions from all the Indian reservations. That's how I remember it. I went back and looked, and of course they pull a lot of those articles. So I couldn't find anything. But if they said only so many, they really Arizona. DB, you know anything? If you heard anything on that more than what I just reported? Um, because I know there was only allowed a certain amount. Now, if they put more, they should have went back to the reservation and asked if they could have had more added. I don't think it's harming anything. Um, yeah, we have a metal wall, and these are metal containers. I think it's the fact that they're there and they don't want them there. So they searched and searched until they found a law that would fit what they wanted removed. So we'll have to see. Well, the Arizona governor says he's not going to comply. So you quickly go and get the permissions. That's what I would say. Uh, so, uh, um, now this one here, boy, you guys, um, there was in Pennsylvania. Where's Karen for this one? And Susan, well, Susan, you're in here. The stakes for upcoming November midterms have never been higher, and the states are closely watch battlegrounds to determine the makeup of the Senate, especially in Pennsylvania. Unfortunately, it could bring up stupid, dangerous decisions by people that put up signs in their yards. And according to the police department, uh, there was one case. Uh, Not only were some signs booby trapped, but they were also placed in various yards without permission, meaning the culprits knew the signs would likely be removed, and the person removing them would be subject to personal injuries made from, guess what? Blades, razor blades, and wires. Um, so when they went to pull them out of the ground, it would slice their hands up. Uh, and it was the opposite. If they seen a sign, let's say, if they seen a Republican sign in the yard, they would go and they would do Democrat and with these razor blades. So someone, I don't know if they got something against Republicans, but hopefully they can find out who did this. Uh, so these are booby trapped, and um, um, some of them were for Fetterman. Some of them, Shapiro as governor. Ashley something. It doesn't show the whole sign, but they were taping them on the corners at the tops. And if you didn't pay attention to it, you would definitely hurt yourself. Oh boy, I tell you. Um, Now there is a new um, there is new pictures of underwater of the Nord Stream pipeline. They say it shows exactly um, what caused the leak. Um, let me pull you down. I think I have the video on this. Um, all right, let's see if I can. Okay, folks, let's see how long. Oh, I can show it. Um, so oh boy, let's see if I can make this bigger. All right. Now, if you guys can see, I didn't see nothing, but they said you can see how it's been blown up. So I'll let you guys watch it. And William, you can watch it too, and see what you see with this. I didn't really see much. Um, but this is the new footage that just came out today of the Nord Stream breakage, or where it was blown up, or, well, basically, we really don't know. But I don't know. I'm just not seeing anything. Uh, but if any of you see something, let me know in the comments. I think it's just re-showing the same thing. Um, I mean, you could see where it's cut. It almost looks like it's cut or sliced. All right, I don't want to get into the talking because they'll get me on it. Um, but that is uh, what is the newest. It's the newest video. Well, William, I got you. There we go. We'll get this all fixed. William, did you see anything? Anybody in chat? Did you see anything? To me, it looked like it was sliced. There was edges, rough edges, but it really doesn't explain much. But I'm not a pro on underwater explosions or any of that. So, but they say. The underwater drone footage has been released showing the aftermath of the explosion and what has happened. The pipeline, which runs from Russia to Germany, was heavily damaged last month, and they say it was sabotage. And these pipelines are crucial to both Germany and Europe in fuel supply. And they say this is the newest footage, and be able to share it with everyone, and maybe they can see what they're seeing and the damage, the explosion that destroyed 50 meters of the Nord Stream 1. So, William, did you see anything?
Yeah, the steel. I could see the interior of the pipe where the steel's been peeled back.
Yeah. To me, it looked cut, but I mean, and parts of it looked blown away. All right, let's. We got. Where is this? Let's see. Yeah. All right. There was a woman on from Sweden who was on Alex Jones. What did she say? Did she say anything? I agree that I did my report, and I'm going to stick to it. And that was that MI6 had the plans and they gave it to Ukraine. Now, what they did with it after that, I don't know. But I think it's a responsibility of Ukraine or Zelensky or whoever got the plans to be responsible for who they gave it to that caused the damage. I'm going to stick with that. You know, that was, they had more evidence towards that than anything else. Um, so yeah, so we had um, so what comes next in the Ukraine war? Um, there's been some developments this week, they say, and it comes in a kind of like a post. Uh, it was said it was called Underwater in a Bear Market before we get to what's coming next in Ukraine. Um, they suggested that we could be looking at negotiations for peace. Uh, it, I have a story coming up about Jinping announcing war again. And they mentioned this in this article saying that now that Jinping and Kim Jong Un, which, yeah, he's going to blow missiles no matter what. But since he's doing that and Jinping is mentioning war again, that NATO is now has been backing off and seeing that Russia is now putting more into going to a war, that NATO could be backing off and looking at a private peace agreement and then both of them just going and parting. Now, uh, William, you know, me and you know what's going to happen. They'll back off, but will the mercenaries and will the people that are still got this conflict with each other go back at it? I think they will. I think it's going to be a never ending battle. It's like the Sunnis and Shiites. They just don't like each other and they're always going to fight. So that's what I think is what's coming next. They may want to go for peace now, but I don't think the people will go for that. Uh, so uh, um, now the parade, the parade trial. It's in the news. You know, I mentioned it, and it was like I don't think anybody'd be very interested in it, but they're taking a long, hard look at this because um, this gentleman, Daryl Brooks. Um, Now he has shaved his head. He looks a lot different. He's wearing a mask, but come to find out, three people in the courtroom so far has going through the pandemic thing. I can't say the C word, um, but he is um, trying to delay this trial, and now it's getting to the point where it's been so disruptive that the courts have got to look at what they can do about him. Now, you have a right to defend yourself. Well, I don't think you have a right to defend yourself and uh, up basically turn the courtroom into a circus. And that's what this guy's doing. He's very disruptive. Now, I've watched him. I watched um, his when they had him holding and trying to get a confession, and this guy is just eh, frivolous. And now he's being kicked out. He's being removed. He's took his clothes off. Uh, Now he basically screamed at the judge recently, "You're out of order." He pointed to, okay, he pointed to the judge and said, "You're out of order." He pointed to the prosecution, said, "You're out of order." And then he yelled, "The whole trial is out of order." Well, of course, they removed him. Uh, I'm going to keep an eye on this trial. It's crazy, folks. You know, and if you're not really into court TV, this thing would bore you. Watching a court trial is very long, and there's a lot to it. But this guy, if you watch the first 10 minutes of his trial, you'll see what I'm talking about. He goes right in and he keeps right off, brings up the fact that um, he filed some paperwork, and the clerk did some of the paperwork wrong, and then he had the judge send it to him. Well, now he has said that he wants it addressed. Um, um, he wants it addressed that the clerk is to be punished for this, but he wants it brought up in the hearing. Now you can't have that in the hearing. It's two different. It's two different subjects. So, um, so we, you know, we got to figure out if this comes up in court for anybody else. This is a very high publicized trial. And once again, if you don't know who I'm talking about, it is the guy during the Christmas parade that mowed down all them people. He drove his car through it. Now he won't look at any of the videos of it, and I don't think he's denied it. I think he's denying it as a second person, like it's another him, and it's crazy. But I don't want to stick on that. I'm going to move on because me and William got lots of stuff to talk about here. Um, they are wanting to give the kids the shot for the pandemic. That's being voted on in the court during, I think, Congress today. Keep an eye on that because it could be something that they're going to force all the kids to do to be able to attend school. The other one is Durham lost. Durham lost that case with Chinko. What do I think about it? I think, like any other the trials I've watched, I say Clinton money, or you can't see my hand. Clinton money. The Clintons, it will do anything to win. Uh, and you wouldn't believe the tricks and tips and typical. Um, they're going to pay off people. There was people on the jury that were all for the Clintons, and see they should have been taken out. There was a lot of stuff mentioned they shouldn't have heard. I knew. Duran, I guess, is going to go ahead and write up a report. I think that's it. I think he's going to come in and say, "That's all, folks." They got. I think they're going to get away with it. Who's they? The FBI and Hillary Clinton for what they did. Um, it's sad. Now, hopefully we don't see this with Hunter Biden, but I just get. I had a feeling this was going to happen. Is it Durham's fault? I don't know. I don't think he went towards the real people that were like Miss Food. Hey, what about his stuff? What about what James Comey did? Some of the people responsible for lying about the case. Or what about the people that signed off on the FISA that lied? We're not even seeing none of that. All right, so I'm going to move on. And um, the Biden family got an interest-free forgivable loan from China. That is something that's recent. I don't know if it's Jinping or the CCP loaning their hand out saying, hey, um, we're going to go ahead and treat you guys on this. So, but the documents do show they got an interest-free loan that was just handed to them. So more evidence against the Biden family. All right, so I told you I'd tell you about Jinping's big announcement. He says he's ready for war. And this was on Sunday. He called for faster military development and announced no change in policies. He said they have waited long enough and their strained relationships are only worsening. And not only that, but now there is a strained relationships worsening with Washington and tightened on the ruling with the Communist Party's control over society and the economy. And they could be looking at sanctions from Washington, D.C. They say China's most um, influential figure in decades, they say, is basically watching Congress And they say that the companies and the governments and all the signs that they're getting from Washington, D.C., is said they have now turned their back on Jinping and the CCP, and they're even accusing Washington of ignoring the Asian neighbors over trade, technology, and security. So the party calls for creating more military equipment and faster military development, and they are ready for war. What do you think, William?
Well, I think that perhaps they should decide whether they're ready to go to war or if they want to build more equipment. But you can't have them both really at the same time, can you?
Yeah. Well, I
I
think he.
suppose you could. It's hard.
Yeah. See, I kind of mentioned earlier. Um, the globe, globally in the news, they were saying, hey, Jinping, maybe he's having second thoughts. Maybe he's not going to go into Taiwan. Maybe they were wrong, and maybe he was just not going to do anything. And I think that's what was getting back to him, and I think he stepped forward and with another threat. um, North Korea's acting up, and um, I really do believe um, that he was just, hey, I'm still going after Taiwan. What do you think?
It's hard to say with these folks because you scream the sky's falling too many times and nobody listens. So
Yeah.
who knows?
Yeah, and then now William sent me a video earlier of NATO. It's the largest, most powerful alliance in history. Now Trump backed out of NATO. He didn't want to be a part of it. But now we're learning that Sweden and Finland are about to obtain full NATO membership. And there is an affirmative vote from Hungary and Turkey, though they will need both of those because NATO requires a huge amount of support. And at one point, I really think that uh, when not everybody was joining NATO, that they had to start gathering up some different countries. And the benefits of, they say, the Article 5 of the North Atlantic Treaty, that's the vaulted collective security. And it's a provision that Russia uh, would make a Russia attack on them an attack on all NATO members, who would come then to their defense. Um, so this is an Article 5 of the North Atlantic Treaty, and this is the first I heard of this. Um, uh, William, I don't know if you knew about this treaty, but I didn't. And it um, um, kind of what Russia's doing with their individual states, where, if Ukraine does something, they're going to take it as an attack. Now, this is what it sounds like with the NATO, with its members, that if Russia even sends a missile into their territory or on that line, that they would go ahead and consider it an attack. Um, um, um,
So
now,
the American model is that an attack on one American is an attack on all Americans. It's a breakdown basically of the U.S. Constitution. They modeled the North Atlantic Treaty Organization articles based on U.S. doctrine, and so that in order to keep all the states safe, they use the collective power of the entire group, because not all the NATO members may be willing like trade, um, uh, being able to use each other's passports. Um, Also, the original treaty organization was steel and coal mining was the original uh, basis for the treaty organization in the first place. And then it grew to be governmental, but it started out as a trade organization.
Yeah. And the article also mentioned about some of these countries are worried about NATO because of an abandonment that happened during World War One and World War Two, where NATO should have stepped up to the plate and they didn't. And they said, it's put on a piece of paper, but that don't necessarily mean that NATO will be there when you need them. Um,
Well, World War One happened because there was lots of treaties and nations didn't come to each other's defense, and so after World War II, the NATO Treaty Organization was created so that they didn't have that problem in the future and end up with a world war happening right after they already had a world war.
Yeah. And it says that when they during World War II, when NATO kind of backed out, it was like the United States and I think the UK. I got a moth bugging me in here. Um, okay, let's not play with the bugs, right? It's a moth though that got in, I guess. What it was is they ended up having other allies come in and help them out. It wasn't NATO kind of faltered, and I think it was Italy that also accused them of the same thing. And so now they want a stricter form of treaty. Um, and they so I can understand though, William. If they've done it in other wars, and these people are the generations after that know about this, you would believe that they would want a better treaty than what they've had in the past where they faltered on. It looks like it's a concern.
We share troops in each other's countries so that if a country is attacked, then everybody already has blood in the game. So that's one of the ways they do it is through military interoperability and having each other's troops on soil, so that if something starts, they're already losing personnel in the action, and so they're not as likely to want to run away. There won't be the popular support for it.
Yeah, and Karen,
and they also won't drag their feet like during World War II. France and England were supposed to come to the defense of Poland, but they held back for 8 months. I think this was what happened, and so there was nobody there to stop the German Nazis from entering Poland.
Yeah. Now, Karen asks, why isn't NATO standing by the agreement? That were already in place. Well, Karen, now what we're talking about is they have done it in the past during World War One and World War II, where they just faltered on it, and other countries had to step in to World War II and do something to help Germany out. Now that they're signed into this new agreement, they're looking at it like, okay, well, we'll join up, but the last time there was this huge war, this is what you did. And they just want to be guaranteed they won't do it again. So it's not they faltered on it now, it's they faltered in the past. And so they're questioning NATO. If things get rough, are you going to do it again? So hopefully that answered hopefully that answers that question and secures it a little bit better. But then Italy saying, well, it's just a piece of paper. Uh, so Italy, I think, is a little bit more on this than some of the other allies. So, but yeah, NATO, NATO, I believe is, William, with everybody not really joining NATO till now, I think NATO's really going to have to take a good look at itself and see if it's um, how it wants to go forward with all these countries. If it's going to be um, just for war, or are they going to? And I think this is what this video was kind of about. If they're going to go forward and help other countries with, it said, I think steel and coal and some other things, and be there for countries to protect their resources. Uh, a good idea. Now they mentioned the blue helmets, and oh boy, I tell you, there's blue helmets and white helmets. And sometimes when you don't see the blue helmets and you see the white helmets, we found out in Syria that these white helmets were showing up and they weren't doing very good things. Uh,
So
Go ahead.
the blue helmets and white helmets are not part of NATO. Those are part of the United Nations. A lot of people think of NATO as being part of the United Nations, and it's a separate organization. NATO is just a treaty organization for common defense of just a few countries, whereas the United Nations, everybody in the world's a member. They can vote on resolutions and send out peacekeepers, but they're not part of NATO. They're not a military alliance.
Yeah, see, that's what I was thinking too when I seen that article. I was like, I thought that the helmets were part of the UN. Um, and I know that NATO does work closely with the UN. Well, all of us, all countries do, every one of them. I don't think, is there any countries that's not with the UN, William, that you know of?
I don't know of any, and because everybody's allowed a seat, I know that Israel wasn't seen as its own state initially in NATO, but they finally got over that. But all countries are allowed to be part of. I'm sorry, not NATO, the United Nations.
Mm-hmm.
NATO is in Brussels, and it has its own military staff, its own battle commanders, and United Nations is in New York, and it's a world forum.
Yeah. So now a lot of people didn't know yesterday was the October 18th was the day that we bought Alaska from Russia. And lo and behold, on this day, yesterday, we were uh, surprised to see that Russian nuclear capable warplanes were spotted over the Pacific, real close to Alaska. We basically sent up jets to intercept them. These were F-16s, and it was near Alaska, they said. According to the Russian Defense Ministry, two of its Tu-95 MS strategic bombers flew over the Pacific Ocean and the Bering Sea and the Sea of Okhotsk, Moscow, saying nuclear-capable jets performed in planned flight and airspace over neutral waters only. And the flight was more than 12 hours, and the Russian Defense Ministry had asserted all of the flights it carried out were in strict accordance, they say, with international rules. Uh, Airspace and aircraft were escorted by MiG-31 fighter planes and refueled while in the air. And by Russian nuclear-capable planes comes at a time when tensions are running high. Um, and so they did, the warplanes, our warplanes, the F-16s did intercept the Tu-95 bombers and basically kept them in their own international space. Now, I thought maybe,
So
go
the
ahead.
the Tu-95 bombers are the Russian equivalent of the B-52. They're four-engine turboprops, long range bombers, and they entered the U.S. Identification zone, not over U.S. airspace, but the identification zone out near the international waters, fishing waters, and were escorted away by uh, F-16 air defense fighters.
Yeah. And I still, William, I think Putin did this just because he wants. Uh, we had one of the viewers say he wants it back, and I was thinking, what a coincidence that he did that on the day of uh, that we bought Alaska from Russia. So now they're doing a lot of drills over there, they say, and there is a presence of the bombers in the drills. And Washington's basically said that of the Nuclear Studies Institute that under normal circumstances it wouldn't really be considered a threat, but NORAD's picked them up and said that these Russian planes were in neutral territory and international airspace. But now that they are in an area out of sync with their normal military drills when they do them, this was unusual and it was considered a threat. Uh, so NORAD's on it.
So the the Russians have always tried to enter our airspace to probe us, to see if we're going to be able to pick them up on radar, how soon we pick them up on radar, what frequencies um, that we detected them with, um, where we scrambled jets out of. All of this stuff is an intelligence gathering operation, even if they don't intend to bomb. If they were going to bomb us, they would send more than just a few planes. They'd send an armada. But it's a game that's been played all through the Cold War, and of course, the Cold War is heating up again, and so there's going to be a lot more of it. And any excuse is going to be a good excuse.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, I think he's, if he doesn't keep doing it, I'm gonna kind of suspect that it was just a glory run, is what I kind of consider it, where he's just gonna fly because of the day, not really a drill. Well, it's an off season of a drill, I guess. They don't normally do drills there at this time, but we're also seeing a lot more um, Russia and China flying over into the Pacific, and they're becoming more prevalent in being seen by our other
Well,
military members.
remember that the Arctic's contested waters because Russia, Canada, United States all wants the oil there. It's an oil-rich area,
Mm-hmm.
a natural gas-rich area, so we're going to continue to have tensions across the Arctic and in the North Pacific. It's just a fact of life. Even if something never happens, they're going to continue to do it to each other, if for no other reason to gain intelligence on each other.
Mm-hmm. Well, you mentioned the Arctic, and the Arctic now is there. All these countries are now looking at, like they did the Antarctic, where they went in for resources and they shared it, and it looks like a pie. And I think that's probably what they're going to do with the Arctic. Now, I don't know why they haven't went and looked and explored the Arctic, and why it was just Antarctica. But now they're looking at that, and the moon, even the moon is now being looked
So
at.
remember, Antarctica was a continent and it wasn't fully explored, so it was considered a scientific mission by all the countries in the beginning, a shared uh, plot of land on Earth, whereas the Arctic is just ice-covered ocean, and so there's nothing really there to be explored except for underwater and the resources that are on the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah. It's well, it's going to be interesting to see what happens over the next few months, because if we really don't go to war with Taiwan, it goes on. It's going to be interesting because Putin always does what he says he's going to do, and he said when Ukraine was done, then he's going to be looking at Alaska. And a bad idea, bad idea. I don't think he needs to. And so, oh, in Iran, we had those drones. There was 100 of them, or 136 Shahed drones. Now, Iran is saying, no, this wasn't theirs. It wasn't us. It wasn't me. Um, they said that it was Russia's that launched, and it had everything to do with these kamikaze drones. And I believe, and so does a lot of the media, think that it's because they don't want sanctions. And plus, they're trying to work out that agreement. What is it? The JCPO? I know I got it wrong. JCPOA.
JCPOA.
Okay, I did have it right. That it would interfere in that get them getting that agreement. So they want to kind of say they didn't do it, but at the same time, then they have sent more over. Um, and of course, Zelensky is saying that uh, Iran did do this and that they will do sanctions on Iran. Now, see, this is kind of what I don't understand with Zelensky is he keeps demanding this stuff like, hey, Iran did this, so you have to do sanctions. It's not really up to Zelensky for sanctions on Iran. Um, Not only
Well,
that,
remember, Zelensky's part of they're trying to enter the European Union. And so when he's speaking, he's not just speaking as a NATO member, he's speaking as a European Union member, as a citizen of the global community at the United Nations. So he's wearing a bunch of hats when he says something. He's also trying to move the media narrative. It doesn't mean he has any real power in the situation. It just means that he's trying to modify the scape, the war scape in the Ukraine's benefit.
yeah. The other thing is um, Israel is putting out a big warning to everyone, with this JCPOA, is that they should not be allowing Iran to send this to Putin. That it's only going to be used for a weapon. Well, of course, because that's what they're sending is kamikaze drones, and that it will end up hurting not only Ukraine but the Middle East for years to come if they allow this. And so even Israel says no. I say the same thing.
So the JCPOA for Iran is just a stalling tactic while they continue to enrich their uranium to build a warhead. And Israel's correct in the fact that every time we hold out for this JCPOA, it just gives Iran more time to enrich their uranium when we should be doing something to stop them from enriching uranium. A positive way to stop them rather than playing word games and word salads doing nothing while they continue to enrich.
And Karen was asking about the Alaska and Russia and China invading and via those routes. Uh, Karen, understand that Putin did put a base over there in Cuba and set up some missiles. Not only that, but they are in the Gulf. They have moved in, but this is all international waters. It doesn't mean they've crossed over, and they are close enough to do something, but they have to stay in international waters. The thing is we're seeing them more often, like in the Pacific. You normally didn't see Russia or China floating in our Pacific, but now with the threats of war, they have been doing it, but it's been the last couple of years. It's just the media don't report on this. They never tell
So the
anybody.
east coast of Russia is within, you can see the east coast of Russia from the Aleutian, the last island in the Aleutian Island chain that's part of Alaska. So we're very close already. And so having these bombers get into each other's identification zone is really easy in that part of the world. And if there's going to be tensions between Russia and the United States, of course, Alaska is going to become a prize or a target or a way to thumb the nose at each other. It's just going to become a political device until it becomes a war device. And, you know, the United States is going to protect all the United States, not just, you know, a few of the United States. So Russia knows this, and they're hoping that through intimidation, they can do with Alaska like Jinping's trying to do with Taiwan and like they're doing with Ukraine actively right now.
Well, it's not the fact that they're in Alaska. You know, Russia and Alaska are very close. Uh, and I mean, it's not that far, and they do mingle. Um, I know some of them mountain men or whatever shows they have way up north. Um, they were talking about Eskimos and Russians kind of being intermingled, like in families, and or they were friends. So there are.
Well, we have Russian Orthodox Christians here in Alaska. They've been there for generations. They left Russia and came to the United States during World War II. It's, you know, it's just across the pond for them. So they have family members here. We have, Americans have family members there. So it's not like we're extremely remote foreign countries. We've been involved with each other for a very long time.
Yeah.
Initially, when America was growing, initially, we were involved with the fur trade with both the Russians and the English, and all on the Pacific. So we've always been involved in some way or another.
Yeah. Now, Karen, I think what the thing is now that we're all kind of at war, and Putin did say he wanted Alaska. He's going to be floating around. His navy and submarines are going to be floating around close to Alaska, as close as they could get. Because if that's what he wants next, he's preparing. Um, and that's pretty much what's going on. Now, we didn't see him there before. They may have flown through or flowed through or flown through, and it just, they weren't making a point of it, but they are now. I hope that kind of answers your question.
So the United States and Russia are not at war.
No, no.
they're both. Russia is at war with Ukraine, and United States is using Ukraine as a proxy war. So we're not directly involved. But should that happen, then the next step would be Alaska. So everybody's laying the legal, the logical, and the military groundwork for what's to come in the future should they take the next step.
Well, I don't think they're losing their land. You know what they are doing is they're kicking a lot of Americans off. If you're not, it's kind of like the Indians. If you're not pure Eskimo or part of certain tribes up in Alaska, they're kicking them out. Just like the last the last Alaskan, I think, where they were telling people they had to go if they didn't have a generation that was going to be staying up there. They are trying to close it to where it's only the Alaskan and Eskimo tribes that are allowed to live up there, and which is I think is should be rightfully done. Um, we can't be
So
having everybody
how
just
that works is they're trying to make the North Slope all like a national park or a national reserve. Um, and the Native Americans have a generational right to be there, where families who don't have multi-generations there are newcomers and are asked to step back off the North Slope back into interior Alaska. That's what's going on there. It's not like tribal or anything like that. It's just about they're trying to slow the development so that they don't have people doing oil extraction
yeah.
without what do they call them, permits. Now, President Trump opened up ANWR to oil exploration, but when Biden administration came in, they shut that back down. So only the oil extraction that already exists is continuing there.
Yeah. Well, Karen, the thing is Putin, basically, Alaska was Russia at one time, and all it is they just want it back. Um, I mean, they were dumb enough to
So
sell it to us for what? What was it? 800 and something $1 million or $1 billion we bought it for, and
no, it was just in millions, and it
was it
wasn't
eight? Maybe was
the
it eight
Soviet
million?
Union that sold it. It was Tsarist Russia before the Bolshevik Revolution. During one of their wars, they needed some extra money for one of their wars, and so it was the way to get money and protect Russia proper was to give up some foreign land, one of their colonies, let's call it, and that colony happened to be Russia or
Yeah,
Alaska. But back then, all that was going on was fur trading and seal trading and stuff like
the
that. They
gold
didn't know there was
rush,
gold there. They didn't know there was
the
oil
gold
and
rush.
the like.
So, um, so I kind of want to move on to robots and Dubai. I think is now we have heard that China has put out the first flying car. We're going to have to wait and see on that one. But now Dubai is, they say, leading in robots. And they had a robot that they is like a host. And the way that they're talking about this is they and the those that make the robots are now saying that there is almost a split now between um, what we're seeing for military robots is more like a machine or something that flies, and where uh, the robots are going to be more used as hosts or using for manufacturing or running machinery. And let me uh, remove William real quick, and I'll show you. Um, so, and I think they're creepy. And do I think there's going to be a universal soldier? I think it's going to be more of a machine than it's going to be one of these robots. These robots would be way too easy to take out. And I think this is what they're discovering, and why Dubois is starting to think that there's going to be a separation between the two. So, um, um, let me bring him up. So he was greeting visitors at a museum, and so I'll let you watch this up to I guess, a certain point. So I only can listen to a minute or so, or show you a minute or so of the video. So here we go.
We have added our latest employee, Amika, where we've worked with a company called Engineered Arts to bring the latest and the most advanced humanoid robot in the world to the Museum of the Future. This robot is very unique in its stance because it uses artificial intelligence in a way of understanding people's questions and responding to them. In addition, if you look at the robot and its facial expressions mimic that of a human being's. The way it tracks the person, the way it looks at it, is very unique and it's very special. And we're very, very, very excited to have Amika with us here today.
It's amazing. You know, when you ask a question, she has to answer me like in the eye. I say you are so cute, and she said you are pretty too. So you know, it's kind of magic.
So there we go. The the greeting robot. Now, will we be seeing a lot more of these? They say yes, we will. Um, but what I wanted to get into with William is universal soldiers. I just don't think we're going to be seeing those anytime soon. Not until they can find a robot that is uh, um, what was that show with? I think it was Arnold, where they were making these robots. I just don't think. Um, uh, oh wow, I'm getting messages. Uh, um, I just don't think they're strong enough in this form to become a soldier. I think it would have to be more like a machine. I'm thinking like with the feet like from a tank, William. You know,
So
a little bit more
we
sturdy.
we have war robots. A drone is a type of war robot.
Yeah.
That we use to look out around the battlefield or drop ammunition. Uh, but their purpose, they're purposefully designed for a special type or function in the battlefield, whereas what you're looking at is more a general purpose domestic type robot, and whether they will ever have enough power available to function like a human being in the battlefield is hard to say. Now, carrying batteries on forelegs or on tracks or on wings or sailplanes under the water is a different deal, because you can have higher density battery packs and stuff like that. That even our drones that are gas powered only have a certain loiter capability, and the ones that are all electric, they have to come back and recharge, almost immediately.
Yeah. Um,
It
but yeah, that's
it
what
just depends on the application.
because I think it's more um, we're going to see like these robots, these I'm going to call hosts that look more like people. I think that's going to be a higher technology where we're looking at military robots going towards the same people that make the drones. I think it's going to be a drone. I think
So
they're starting to see that it's two different. Like the dog one that you see the army has is a lot different than this guy. And I think this guy would, I think is going to be like our cell phones, where it's just going to record everything we say and do, and the people and be uh, humorous enough and social enough that it can find out what it wants. Um, I don't think.
a robot's just a machine. What makes them powerful is AI. Is when the computer system starts to become self-learning and able to write its own code and then act on its own code within the processor structure of the microchip. And when you have adaptive machines, that's what a robot really is an adaptive machines. They become more and more useful for things like the battlefield, or in this case, a host.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be made more by military. Um, oh, who? DARPA. There you go, DARPA. That's who I'm thinking. I think these, um, the ones that they use for the military is going to go more towards DARPA, and then they'll put it into a bigger manufacturing, um, like the drones. But these humanoids, I think they're just going to be a recording device. Or, like Alexis, there you go. You'll have one of these instead of Alexis, where you'd be able to ask it and it'll give you the Wikipedia encyclopedia thing. Because it's not really going anywhere. And that was one of the things that when there was an article that was with it that said that the Dubois, when they wanted to find the perfect one, it was more like a universal soldier or security. And they said there's just not that technology. But these things are very social, and it would make a good Alexa. Um, and be able to get, and
It
not
would
only
be good.
that, but be a maid too, and a housekeeper.
It would be good security, and that it can be aware of what's going on around it and phone the police. But as far as being able to defend uh, something, I'm not sure that's possible right now.
Yeah, I don't either. And with all the technology that we do have, we haven't quite got there. But look at the advanced technology has given us for these military bots and equipment that's far went farther than I ever thought. Like the little dog thing that can be in the field now. Or you could even use him and even uh, mount anti artillery on it, or you could even give these things guns that they could shoot. And it wouldn't even be a person, it would be just a thing. Now, and I see as we move into the future with any other war that we'll be using these kamikaze drones. I really do think this is going to be towards our future, to where no boots on the ground would mean more military bots and technology that go on.
Well, our one of our first military kamikaze drones, was the torpedo. That's kind of what all got it started. Was
It was Japan's fault.
the guided bomb. The guided bomb and the torpedo were our first foray into this, and military necessity always creates the need for invention, and of course somebody will come up with a new technology.
Yeah. Well, is quite a few of these that even build our planes and tanks and um, sell to all countries. I think that that's what upsets the United States is, some of them will build planes for us, but then they're building planes for China. And so,
Well, they don't have a soul. I mean, they're just a tool. They're very complicated wrenches.
yeah, Linda just got through saying no soul. And now, and last, um, China is thinking about if they're going to get sanctions put on them because of their interactions with Russia, that their sanctions back could be these semiconductors. Said that they could easily cut the United States off. Then what are they going to do? I think they have something they could hold over our heads, William. I think they found something.
Well, they can hold it over our heads for like a year or so until we built the manufacturing plant to produce our own chips. There, it cost. What did I hear? It was something like $100 billion to build a manufacturing plant capable of making semiconductors that are down. I think it's in the 10 nanometer scale. So it's not that we can't do it. It's just that it'll take a little time, and most of our manufacturing happens to be in Taiwan, and some of the not as good manufacturing of semiconductors in China. The generation before this last generation in Taiwan is made in China, and the best manufacturers of chips is in Taiwan and Japan, or South Korea. I can't remember which. Most of them are 90% are made in Taiwan, and 10% are made by Samsung. And I don't know if Samsung's in South Korea or Japan, the manufacturing place.
Yeah, they're saying that there is, I guess we do have a semiconductor plant here or one going into place, but they said that they want to tighten and almost like a stranglehold. China's microchip development department is coming out with new restrictions barring the U.S. from helping China's microchip development without a license. And
yeah, what the big fight is over is not actually the creation of the microchips itself. It's the machines that create the microchips. So for each new generation of microchips, they have to have better and better machines, and the machines have to actually be created by machines. And so they're breaking that link with China so that they can't get the best high-end chips like are being created in Taiwan and by Samsung elsewhere. So that's what the big rub is those laser. Think of it like a lathe is to mechanics. These laser clean machines that have to function on, a near atomic scale. They're so specialized that there's only a few places in the world that can create them, and it's a conglomeration of they're in Holland and Taiwan and the United States that all the pieces are brought together to make these super sophisticated machines that can etch the chips. What they do is they use a certain frequency of light to make it so that the top layer of the chip can be dissolved or not dissolved. They use photochemicals just like we used to use on in cameras and develop. Well, what they do is instead of developing negatives, they develop a microchip, and it's on such small scales that if there's any leakage of other colors of light, or the light doesn't arrive at the right place at the right time, then the whole chip is just instantly destroyed. So they have to be, immaculate, sterile places. The semiconductor wafers have to be extremely pure. There's a whole litany of things that have to happen, and every generation of microchips, which is about every 18 months or so, becomes that much more difficult to create.
Yeah.
It's a semiconductor arms race, if you will.
Yeah. I think that's pretty much what it is, because, and we should have done that years ago. We never should have depended on China or even Taiwan for some of the chips. We should have done it here.
We did back in the 80s. It was made here by Texas Instruments and some of the other semiconductor manufacturers here in the United States. They were bulkier, but when the personal computers started coming out, it was cheaper to manufacture them in China. And so cheap computers coming out of China, which is what we are all talking on right now, to save money in the manufacturing process, Apple went to Foxconn in China, and there's ASUS, ASUS is out of South Korea. There's a whole bunch of different manufacturers, MSI. All these manufacturers have to compete against each other in the marketplace, and so wherever they can find the cheapest, best labor, that's where they'll go. Now, right now, China is becoming a political problem, so it's probably time to move on to some place like
Holland, you said?
Well, Holland makes the machines that makes the machines.
Okay, that's right.
No, move on to cheaper labor like in India or into North Africa, perhaps some of the poorer EU countries. Bulgaria might be a good place to go because they have a high, good education system. Ukraine, we were using Ukraine for biomedical, but we could have been using them just as well for semiconductors. Back, in the 90s, we went into, I think it was Hungary, was making IBM hard drives.
Yeah.
So they just chase wherever the labor is the cheapest, that's of the sufficient quality to be able to manufacture what they need to be sold in other places in the world.
Yeah. Yeah, I really think that even with this solar and wind generator, I mean they didn't plan and just decided to do it, and it's the same thing I think with these microchips and semiconductors. We played with China, and now that we're going to get cut off, it's oops, we should have protected ourselves first. But I think they thought we were going to basically be in partnership with China, and that we would be able, us and China would be big partners in business, and basically they were going to let China do what they wanted here in the United States.
Well, we have been in working with China. We still are in different arenas, but it's the fact that the political system has decided it's going to be a world power that is causing the new problem.
Yeah.
So business will be forced to leave China or leave the United States and just become part of China. There's just going to be a bifurcation, and then what's left is going to go someplace else. Maybe Mexico, maybe Brazil, maybe India, someplace where labor's cheaper, that have good quality workers that can get the job done, so they can sell those products in places where they sell it for a higher price, like in Western Europe or the United States. Cheap products chase the money. So this is just business. It's no difference than if you were selling Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
You might want to sell seed potatoes in Utah too.
Yeah.
So that business grew over time. Well, these businesses are constantly growing. We have international business opportunities through our treaties, organizations, through other means. Business will go wherever business can go and make a profit. It's not a moral thing. It's just an economic money thing. And when we start having political strife, then morals get involved, and we force companies to choose. Either you're going to be with us, you're going to be with them. You have to make a choice. Yeah. We don't force them to come to the United States. We don't force them to go to China. We just don't let them do both. And that's through our political process.
Yeah, and political has gotten way too involved in it, and I think that's going to be the downfall. And I think as we build up more of these plants, you know, what I've seen with the World Economic Forum with Klaus Schwab is bring in all the illegals you can, because they will work for pennies, and then the people of your country could have the higher positions, but the illegals are to be brought in to do they say farming and manufacture work, and I think that's what
humans are very adaptive. They're going to learn at a very fast rate, and if some of at the top decide they're not going to learn at as fast a rate, then they'll be overtaken. It's a constant competition. You know, even a marriage is a type of business. Raising your children is a type of business. It's just whether or not it's a domestic business at your home in a way, or you're exchanging dollars out in the marketplace. We've always been involved in politics from the very time we were tribes up until now. It's just become more and more interdependent is all.
Yeah, sure is. Well, William, if you have any last words. I didn't see that. I looked through my email and I didn't find that music you sent me. I was going to post it.
I'll resend it to you.
Yeah. And
Emily Hastings just came out with a new song. She's from I think a Brazilian mom and an American father. She lives in, I think, Minnesota. So you want to look up Emily Hastings. She just came out with a new music video. That might be the song of the day if you decide to look.
Yeah. I couldn't, you know, I really couldn't. Usually I'll have something pop into my head, but nothing really came to mind for me today for what we're seeing going on. Because so much news, you know, everything from my lifestyle news that flows into here. I just really couldn't think of anything to come up with.
So
I wish there was like the American Beauty model, because that was, I really like that human interest story about the beauty queen with the dog.
So yesterday I talked about Eva Virgilova, so it's Vergilova. In Bulgaria, she just came out with a cover of Man in the Box by one of the grunge bands here in Seattle. So that just shows you culture moving around the world. And, you know, we're kind of stuck in the box with them.
William likes European music.
What's happening in politics right now.
William likes European rock music, is that?
It's a grunge, blues, rock music that came out here in Seattle and has made its way around the world now to Bulgaria and into Russia and whatnot. And it's interesting to watch the culture, U.S. art culture and blues travel around the world. You know, blues is the one thing that's truly American that has permeated the world of art. And, you know, music music is, I guess, the universal medium of understanding each other initially, and then it moves on to, visual arts and graphic arts and plays, and then finally movies, and eventually you end up with people that aren't so good looking, some of them being actors in politics, let's just say. It's a constant social progression, and when I look at this music as it travels around the world, that's what I'm looking at, is the cultural interlinking between different societies that are very different from each other, yet have a common bond in taste, let's say.
Yeah. Well, blues is, they say, the beginning of rock, and it's what got Elvis to swing his hips. I don't know. We'll have to,
Well,
we
it
never
started out on
know.
the slave plantations and made its way all the way till we have amplified equipment. So you ended up with electric guitars. You could take a small amount of movement and with your fingers and create a hideous amount of sound. So that's kind of how that gets going. So you take a little talent, and suddenly you can get everybody to pay attention, I guess, is what goes on. So, politics by different means.
Yep. Okay, we're hoping everybody subscribes and shares today's show. It's a really good show. It was longer than normal, but a lot of information. So definitely share with your friends and family, and friends, family, and in your neighbor. Maybe your neighbor would like to watch us. We need to definitely get ready for November. We're about 20 days away. It's time to take the country back. It's time for the patriots to rise here in the United States and put a flag up and be proud of, and have most of the country that's behind us right now. 87% of the country is very dissatisfied with the administration in place, with inflation and crime being top topics. Yeah, friends, start mentioning it. Do you like this crime? Do you like the inflation? Because they're saying it seems that Democrats like these high prices. I don't think they do. I think
Well,
I think they're just having a hard
I would
time
like
cutting away from the party.
I would like us to not be looking at what the other guy's doing wrong, but have a plan of what we're going to do right. That's what I want to hear.
Yeah, well, they have. Let's see, McCarthy, I believe, came out with a plan, and you can find it online. It sounds pretty good. They're going to have to. It didn't. The Democrats didn't make these changes for socialism overnight. They've worked on this for decades, and the Republicans should have been on their toes on this. And now, it's not going to be where they can just jump in and say, well, this, and this will change everything. They have really got to make some serious changes in plans, or it's not going to make it. And it'll crush the hopes of a lot of Americans if they don't have a hard, solid plan to move forward into the new year. So, anyway, that's about it, William. And like I said, everybody subscribe and share, hit that bell. And I did put up, Karen put up our times, our new times. We're no longer in the morning. We're here Monday through Friday, 5 to 6. I think our shows have been better. I think they're fuller, more videos, more pictures. And that's what the viewers have been asking for. And over on Facebook, hit follow and like. So, William, I thank you much. I'm having a good time with you, William. I don't know. I might just call you every day and say, you're just going to have to do a show with me. Because I kind of like having you here. So
thank you for the opportunity. I like
Okay.
the direction you're headed. I like the direction the audience is thinking about, and if I can contribute, then that's what I'll do.
Yeah. So with that, you guys have a wonderful Wednesday. I know it's hump day. Why do they? I don't like the whole hump day thing. So I show the camel on Wednesdays on closing. I think a dancing camel just adds to maybe putting a smile on your face. So come on back tomorrow. Tomorrow will be just news, and of course, right before our news, you can have lifestyle news. We do lifestyle news for those that just sometimes the news just gets to them. And they say, take a break for a day or two on the news because it'll just get you tense. Uh, and of course, pray. Pray that our country will come back strong. So, with that, you guys, God bless. And we'll see you tomorrow. And we might see William sooner or he'll be back next Wednesday. So, have a wonderful evening. And God bless.